Good.
All right, you are good to go.
Excellent. So again, my name is Branden Grimmett. I serve as the Vice Provost for Career and Professional Development here at Emory University, overseeing what's called the Pathway Center. And today I'm going to be explaining a little bit more about our process of working with students and alumni, and also with families and parents to support your students' career development. I believe that one of the most important things a university can do for its students is help them leave the university successfully, confidently, taking advantage of all the amazing resources that we have to offer. And so I'll be sharing more about those resources and more about those opportunities today. And so the Pathway Center is a new division at Emory University. We've been around for 2 years, and we pull together existing units that compose all the different areas that our students are going to need to be successful. And so what I'll be talking about today is, who we are as a team, how we support students through our vision and our leadership and our mission. I will articulate several of the different programs that are going to be important for families to know about as your student journeys through the 4 years of their college experience here at Emory. And then we'll spend some time toward the end of the presentation answering any questions you might have for me about pathways and how we support professional development. For me, it's usually important to explain a little bit more about who I am. When I listen to other presenters, it's important for me to know where they've come from and a little bit more about their background. And so these represent the different universities that I have worked for. And I'm currently at Emory, and I've also attended a number of these. I'm a St. Olaf grad. I went to Harvard for my master's, and my doctoral degree is from USC. And having worked at all of those schools, in addition to Tufts, LMU, and now Emory, what I can tell you with complete confidence is that Emory has the best constellation of resources and integration to make it very likely that your student will have a full experience here as a young professional, identifying their goals and their needs, and really preparing for what comes after college, which could include a job, internship, post-grad service experience, graduate school, etc. And part of what I want to share about Emory's unique approach to this is now starting with the class of 2027 and beyond, all of our students are required to do something experiential in order to graduate. That includes an internship, education abroad, research, or a community engaged learning course. And so unlike a lot of other universities, we actually require that students get outside the classroom, get that firsthand world experience, so they really understand how to build a bridge between an academic life and the world of academia into one of the world of work. The other thing to know about me is that I come from a family that has really valued education. I kind of joke here that, I was really eager to get into my first year birthday cake there. And I share this story because my parents are both educators, and for them, they were the first in their family to go to college. And we have a lot of students at Emory who are also first generation. And for me, my parents, my father there on the bottom left, was really under some pressure to make sure that he utilized the full extent of his education. My grandfather was a janitor his entire life, and it was really important to my father and equally important to me that I didn't leave anything on the table as I navigated my way through my college experience. And so that's a little bit more about my background. It might also be important for you to know before I get into the details of the Pathway Center that I'm also a musician. And so for those of you that might have students that are thinking about the arts, whether it's dance or music or theater or performing arts or visual arts in general, know that the Pathway Center is not just for students looking to go into the business world or into healthcare or into law. We're really here for students that understand all of that. And just to prove a point, in addition to my role here at Emory, I also do some work on the side in the arts, as many of our faculty and staff often do, have been involved as an investor and co-producer of these Broadway shows. Got to take my mom to the Tony Awards as my date, and I'm currently working on the revival of Othello. So if your student is interested in the arts, just know that there's a lot that they have to offer here at Emory, both within my own role as the head of the Pathway Center, but also throughout the departments in Emory College and through our Arts Emory program. So what is the Pathway Center? You heard Carmina mention it at the top of the program. We are a division that pulls together all of the things that your student needs to know about how to make a smooth transition from college to career. We include career and professional development, which is the Career Center. We had just yesterday a big career fair on campus. We had over 100 recruiters on campus to recruit our students for internships and jobs, and it was bustling. We had students as early as their first year there and all the way through our seniors and graduate students there. We also support undergraduate research programs. These events and programs allow students to really hone their research as early as their first year, to find faculty mentors, to do novel research, both in the sciences, but also in the arts, humanities, and social sciences, to really understand how to solve a big or small problem that might lead to more career clarity. National Scholarships and Fellowships is the office that supports students applying for not just fellowships, but scholarships that don't just occur when they graduate, but are also happening when they're undergrads. And so we've got some of those for every class year, first year through senior. These are things like the Fulbright, the Marshall, the Rhodes Scholarship, but also things like the Critical Language Scholarship, Boren Fellowship, etc. Our pre-health advising office is top notch within the country. We have a very high percentage of students that go right into medical school, but we also support 15 other health professions that your students might be interested in. And the main thing here to know is that one of the leaders of this office is actually an Emory professor in the School of Medicine, an emergency medicine physician at the Grady Hospital, and also a parent of a current Emory student. And then finally, experiential learning is our funding arm that allows students to receive up to $3,000 for domestic internships and $4,000 for global internships if they're having trouble, affording being able to move to a city or stay in Atlanta over the summer to pursue those internships. At the same time we're doing all of that work, it's really important to me that we speak with a unified voice to the employer base here in Atlanta and abroad. We work with over 500,000 companies in our database called Handshake. 100% of the Fortune 500 companies are recruiting actively at Emory through that platform. And most importantly, your student is able to communicate with 15 million other college students around the world who may be in regions where your student would want to intern or live when they graduate, which might include where you currently are. So know that our system is quite robust, both in terms of how we connect with employers and also how we prepare students for those opportunities. Finally, our inclusion statement to me is really something that should speak to every student that is here at Emory. Most importantly, we want students to know that the world of work is not perfect, and we want to prepare students for thinking about how their values align with those of the companies that they're looking at. And we want those students to not only think about the change that needs to happen when they're here at Emory, but to continue working toward creating more spaces for themselves as they move into that professional life. So now I'll talk about the different areas of how we think about preparing students for the world of work. I want to start by being a little bit tongue-in-cheek and saying that much of what we encounter at Emory when students come to us is based upon their very basic knowledge of the world of work. And I would argue that most students, when they think of the world of work, they're thinking of either healthcare or they're thinking of law, maybe business, right? And where do they get their ideas of where these industries are going, what they can expect in them? They get those ideas from the media. And we also know that students really focus on business, law, and medicine when they come to Emory because we know that Emory is quite strong in those areas. However, I want you to know that we are spending every semester, every week, every day with robust programming that helps our students understand that the world of work is much larger than those three industries. We know that students receive their career advice from their friends, from their classmates. Some of that is based upon paying a little bit too much attention to what other people might be doing. They might be getting advice from siblings at other universities or even strangers. And my question back to students is always, was that good advice? And the thing to really take away today is that as a part of the Emory educational experience, everything I'm describing, which is really just scratching the surface, is available to all students at Emory at the undergraduate level. So to go back to this kind of proposition that students only know when they come to college, business, healthcare, and law as paths forward for them, we also have created something called career communities. And we expand beyond business to talk about careers in the creative industries, environment and sustainability, nonprofit, education, advocacy, policy, government, international affairs, including STEM. Of course, business and law and health is there, but each of these career communities comes equipped with insights around the job market, projections around the job growth in those areas for the next decade so that students know exactly which jobs are growing versus shrinking. We have featured jobs that have been posted on Handshake that our students can apply for, internships as well. including resources, news and advice, and then industry guides so that students can quickly get up to speed around those different areas. Additionally, students are able to customize their alerts. And so we have 8 different career community newsletters. We have also 8 different career community coaches. And so these are the individuals that your students should know about. In addition to them being the career community liaison for each of these communities, you can see listed there, they also have a portfolio of affinity groups that they work closely with, and also with every department in Emory College. And so know that the students are able to connect with these individuals in group advising, in handshake appointments. They can schedule all of that on the handshake application, which they were all invited to join in August before their first year for the last few years now. These coaches are very busy, and so I'd encourage you to let your students know to book these well in advance of when they need something. And what I would say is that a healthy engagement with career coaching is to meet with that coach maybe 2 or 3 times per semester for the entire 4 years of their college experience. Of course, once they land that internship and they know what their plans are for the summer, they maybe can focus more on their schoolwork. And as they land more senior internships in the summer between junior and senior year, oftentimes those internships are coming with offers for full-time employment. And then we, of course, will have other students going into graduate school, and those are the pathways that we support as well. Students also do not need to know what they're going to do for the rest of their lives because none of us know what we're going to be doing. That represents 40 years and 100,000 plus hours. What we really want them to focus on is what they're going to be doing next. And that next really begins with their first year at Emory in something called ECS 101. I believe we're now in the 4th week or so of that class. Think of this as an extension of orientation where students are led through cohorts of 18 students or fewer every week in a course that explains to them all the things that I'm telling you right now. But in addition to that, focuses on academic advising, on student success, on balancing their social life with their academic life. And the most important thing to know about one of the learning goals in this course is that help seeking and help receiving are skills that should be practiced and perfected eventually. So again, help seeking, help receiving, and making connections are skills. And I mention that because a lot of students, when they come to Emory, might look around and see either upper class students or even some of their peers seemingly doing things better than they are. Maybe they're more comfortable networking, maybe they seem to know how to interview better. The reality is that if anyone is doing that quote unquote better than your student is doing it, it's because there's more practice that they could be doing to get more comfortable with that. And that is all a part of what it means to be learning to be a young professional and getting stronger and more confident as they navigate this space moving forward. So currently all first year students and transfer students are in ECS 101. There's a transfer cohort as well. And they are going to be in this course for 13 weeks total, learning everything from resumes to networking to interviewing, and also reaching out to alumni to make those connections. I'm now going to share a quick video that it walks you through a thing that our students will do in their second year. We're about in a couple weeks to go to Camp Twin Lakes in Rutledge, Georgia, which is our sophomore summit open to all second year students. So probably most of you are parents of first year students. We might have a couple family members who are supporting our second year students. And even if you are a parent of a first year student, we want you to know about this incredible program that happens in the second year.
We're at Camp Twin Lakes. I hope that being out here will allow people to sort of reconnect.
We've intentionally brought together alumni and faculty of Emory who have had winding roads to get to their destination.
You can bond with your other peers. You can learn about their stories.
I think that the Sophomore Summit is a way to take a step back.
This is an opportunity to focus on those impactful things, not just the deadline or what's urgent.
It's not often that a lot of students have the opportunity to come to something like this.
I encourage every student that's a sophomore to take advantage of the summit.
So our sophomore summit is an incredible experience of storytelling, of bonding, stepping away from campus. We actually take the Atlanta students from the campus here and we go to Oxford and we join up with the second year students at Oxford College and spend lunch there. And then we go off to Camp Twin Lakes for an overnight retreat. Staff are there, faculty are there. We've got upper class student leaders leading small group discussions. There's an alumni panel and also a keynote speaker. The students come away with incredible outcomes, but for me, the most important thing is around storytelling. We hear stories from faculty that talk about academic challenges they faced when they were sophomores or students themselves. We hear from alumni that talk about some of those first steps after graduation and some of the things that they overcame in ways that they were planful while they were at Emory to prepare for that transition. And so we believe in making sure students don't have to learn these lessons the hard way. We want all of that advice to come to your student as early as possible. We have over 100 students already registered for the Sophomore Summit happening in a couple weeks, and today is actually the deadline for registering for that event. So if you happen to be a parent or family member of a second-year student and you haven't been convinced that they've heard about this or have registered, please do encourage your student to register today, which is the final day for registration. The second thing we want students to think about as they're going through ECS 101 and also the Sophomore Summit eventually is that first summer after their first year, spending some time testing out their theories around career identity through an internship. And to make this slightly less painful and easier from a feasibility standpoint for our students, as I mentioned before, we do distribute up to $3,000 for students pursuing internships that are domestic and up to $4,000 for global experiences. A very straightforward application with one particular thing to remember, which is that in order to apply for internship funding, you have to have an internship offer. Now, I mentioned that there were 100 recruiters on campus yesterday to help students begin thinking about this. They had internships available. Students can still go on Handshake and apply for those today, even if they didn't go to the fair yesterday. But the fall semester is really the time when a lot of internships are posted, and the spring semester is often when those employers are making decisions about who they want to hire for the summer. So working with their career coach, going to different events in the Pathway Center is going to be critical to making sure that they're prepared for this. And the reason we offer internship funding is since every student must complete an experiential learning opportunity in order to graduate, we want to make sure that financial resources are not a part of that. So we do not look at financial aid according to financial aid metrics. We actually look at the cost of the internship. And so if a student is even getting paid to do an internship, but it happens to be in London, or maybe they're not from Atlanta and they need to stay here over the summer, we look at the cost of that. We also look at resources that students have available to them through other means, and we try to fill the gaps that need to be filled in order for that student to say yes to that experience. Every student that does an internship through the internship funding program gets academic credit for it, so it will appear on their transcript when they graduate. You can see here that we funded 269 students. It was a diverse pool of candidates. The vast majority decided to stay here in Atlanta, which we're really grateful for, but we also had students interning in 26 different countries around the world. All of these students, again, received academic credit and were able to be supported by the Pathway Center throughout their summer. They are actually back on campus now as returning students going through a reflection process that allows them to really understand what they experienced and to translate the skills that they learned into what might be coming next. And for students continuing, it might be that second or third internship, or students about to graduate, it might be making sure that the resume is ready to go for the full-time job search, which began in earnest earlier this month. The other thing to note is that there were 55 different majors represented behind these applications, and we had even more students register for internship credit that didn't need funding. So we were over 300 students participating. I want to turn now to Handshake. Handshake is the tool that most universities use to manage their job and internship portal. We're happy to be a partner with Handshake. Handshake is a company that was founded over 10 years ago by college students in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan who were quite dissatisfied with their career center. And so they went around the state, they got feedback from other universities, and they created this incredible tool that is now on the Forbes list as one of the most innovative startups based in Silicon Valley. And we'll talk about that particular location a little bit later. But you can see here that we've got employers from every stripe and industry, big companies, small companies, all the big four on the accounting side, all the consulting firms, nonprofit organizations and government agencies as well. What we want students to do is to obviously download the app. We ask them to do that before they began at Emory in the summer. And once they've done that, to create that profile and to customize their settings so that they're receiving the alerts and the customized notifications that they need to receive to be ready to say yes to that opportunity. They can actually meet with employers virtually on the platform. They can learn about events happening virtually and also in person here at Emory. And then finally, they can apply for jobs immediately through the system using their resume and cover letters that they have on file. But one step that we want students to be doing alongside Handshake is also getting feedback on their resumes. And those of you that might work in technology companies or deal with artificial intelligence will be happy to know that the way students get feedback today in 2024 on their resume is not always through one-on-one appointments, although we do that. But we just invested in something called VMock, which is a smart resume editor tool. It also allows students to compare a job description with their resume and see what gaps they have left to fill. And then finally, they can get feedback on their LinkedIn profile. And all of this is done within about 60 seconds. And they can continue to upload multiple versions of that. And we really want students to achieve a high score so that they have the confidence that when they apply, especially for the bigger companies, that they're getting through what is also an artificial intelligence-based application system that weeds out people that don't have the keywords, the right experience, the right kind of formatting in those documents. And so all the models behind VMock are proprietary, but we work very closely with the company to make sure that those models and those benchmarks are on point with not only the companies that Emory has been working with in terms of recruitment partners, but also what our faculty are teaching and the skills that our students are learning in the classroom, but also in the lab, studio, and stage. In addition to all of the amazing things happening virtually through Handshake and happening in the classroom, we also know that Atlanta is a thriving metropolitan city that has a number of big companies and also smaller organizations at bay. And we provide transportation every semester for 7 different networking nights from our campus to the city of Atlanta to meet with different companies where our alumni are also working. And so last year we were at the Rollins School of Public Health, which we'll return to for our healthcare networking night. We went to BlackRock for the business networking night. We were at the Atlanta Tech Village for our STEM networking night, the Arthur and Blank Family Foundation for our social impact. That's the family foundation of the founder of Home Depot, by the way. And then at the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. And what you can see listed here, and you'll also find on the Pathways Center website, is our schedule for this year. So next week, actually, we are going to Truist Bank, and that'll be our business networking night. All alumni in the city of Atlanta that work in the business sector have been invited to attend that. And we have, I think, close to 150 students signed up for that already, as well as about the same number of alumni. We'll be at the historic DeKalb County Courthouse for the Law and Government networking night, at the High Museum for Arts and Entertainment, and then back at the School of Public Health here on campus. And then the spring semester, we'll be back on campus at the Emory Student Center for our Green and Sustainability networking night, and then to be determined locations for STEM and social impact. So in total last year, we had over 500 students participate in these events. We had over 300 alumni attend as well. If your student is shy, if they need practice being in front of a professional, getting all of the kind of jitters out when they are networking, these are amazing events to go to because it's a safe environment of alumni and friends of the university that really care about preparing our students for their future. We have host panels that are alumni populated, and this gives you just a little bit of a visual sense of what these networking nights consist of. If nothing else, it's a free meal, some free refreshments, and an opportunity for their students to meet other classmates that might be interested in the same thing. I'm now going to shift back to what we're doing nationally, because many of you are not from Atlanta and may be curious about what we're doing in your own backyard. We have students that come from all the different states in the country and also several countries around the world. We're currently confined to our domestic area here in the United States for what are called career treks, but are exploring in the future international career treks as well. And what you're going to see here is a snapshot of our experience with our first career trek to New York City.
We're here at the Emory Career Track. This is a group of Emory students visiting New York City and making connections with alumni.
I think it's really important to have a program like this so that students know that there are alumni in the fields that they want to go into.
Having exposure to different sectors of society.
In this world where you're young and it's big and it's scary, it's important to have a good foundation.
If you're a student at Emory right now and you're even considering this, I would say jump in, just do it.
Going on this career track will be an enriching experience.
So the Emory Career Trek is something that is quite popular with our sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and we will be going to the San Francisco Bay Area over fall break, bringing about a third sophomores, a third juniors, a third seniors for this program. There is a small cost associated with this, but we do have scholarships. So I believe the fee is $300, but that scholarship can get it down to $150. And this includes round trip airfare to those locations, hotel for 4 nights, all of the food that they need while they're there, and also transportation to the different site visits. We will be going to Google and Handshake, which is of course the headquarters for our job search database in the Bay Area, Salesforce, the EPA, and some other companies when we're in the Bay Area. Also hearing from some of our graduate students who did their undergrad at Emory but are now at Stanford and Berkeley doing a PhD or master's program. We have done these over the fall and spring breaks. This year we will be again in the Bay Area for the fall break, and then we'll be doing 2 concurrent treks to New York City focused on financial services and the creative industries, and then to Miami at the same time for those interested in healthcare research and tourism and hospitality industries. The other 2 cities in rotation are DC and Los Angeles, and we'll do those every other year so that we hit all 5 markets every 2 years. I want to make sure that you know about a couple other things within the Pathway Center, and then we'll turn it over to questions because I see people raising their hands already. The SHORE program is a summer undergraduate research experience program, 10 weeks. So this would become available to students beginning this summer. It comes with housing that's covered here at Emory, and students are paired with a faculty mentor that is not necessarily just within their home college, but it could be at the medical school, at the School of Public Health, at the law school, whatever our students are interested in researching, we have faculty with that expertise. The students also get a stipend that support their cost of living. And this is an incredible program, especially for those students who are thinking about going into not just the health professions, but any kind of research or graduate program after they finish undergrad. We also use artificial intelligence in the undergraduate research programs office to pair our students with our faculty. And so this does kind of a scraping of the public domain of Emory's website, looks for faculty that have expertise that might match your students' interest, and profiles are created that allow them to interact through the tool. And so if you have students that you know are quite interested in research or discovery, be sure to encourage them to use Forager 1 and the undergraduate research programs office. Finally, we also want to acknowledge and reward our students that are doing research with faculty and maybe even research on their own. And that allows them to present that research at conferences, both here in Atlanta and also throughout the globe. So we do have a conference funding program that allows students to use awards to travel, to support themselves, to be able to put that notch in their resume or CV. And we get a lot of applications for this each year when we process those very quickly. What I would say is that if you know a student of yours is interested in doing this and they've been invited to present their research, have them apply as early as possible so that they can get the funding in time to be able to say yes to the opportunity and to really maximize that experience. And then just a couple more slides and then we'll turn it over to questions. National Scholarships and Fellowships, as I said before, is really focused on helping students identify scholarships and fellowships that are open not just to graduating students, but we've got opportunities for first years, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. This can both help offset the cost of their education, but also increase their experience through education, through research, through work experience. These are things like the Bobby Jones Scholarship, the Fulbright. We have 23 matched Fulbrights from this past year alone, and we have 77 students who have already begun their application for this cycle of the Fulbright. We also have a great history of Marshall Scholars and Humanity in Action and Mitchell Scholars as well. And so for any academic discipline you can imagine, and for any region typically you can imagine, there is a fellowship there for students. Working with that office early and often is highly recommended. And no matter who you are as a student, no matter what you're studying, there's plenty of opportunity for you. I'm just going to briefly talk about our pre-health advising office because we had over 150 drop-in appointments the first week of class for pre-health advising. So the students are definitely learning about this and have been utilizing it. But we've got a great acceptance rate here, which you can see for the most recent graduating class, the average MCAT score, average GPA. This is really not to say students can or cannot do something, but it gives you a sense of what your student needs to be aiming for if they're considering especially medical school. And as I mentioned before, there's over 15 different health professions that we also support. Those are things like public health, physician assistant, occupational therapy, dentistry, veterinary medicine, you name it. So when we talk about health professions, it's not just the MD, it's all of those postgraduate career paths and plans as well. And over here on the right-hand side, just giving you a flavor of what our drop-ins have looked like in the past. One of the things we're doing to shift this year to scale this programming is to make sure that students can do more group advising. So rather than a one-on-one appointment with the pre-health advisor all the time, what we're actually doing is creating group appointments that allow students to focus on just the application questions that they have and hear what other students have questions or concerns about, which may not have been a question that they thought of. And so hearing that really elevates everyone's knowledge so that Emory is putting forth its best and brightest for medical school. So before I turn it over to Karina, who I think is going to moderate the Q&A for us, just a few things that your student needs to know, especially in their first year here at Pathways. To get familiar with Handshake and the career communities, make sure that they're activated there, they've got the app downloaded. Ideally, they would have met with their career coach at some point in this fall semester, but again, they're going to learn a lot about this through ECS 101. We want students to also be curious, to attend employer events and alumni events. We sent an email to all students a couple days ago about the career fair. It's not intuitive for first-year students to go to a career fair, but they need to do that because we want them to talk to employers that they might be interested in working for longer term, ask those employers what skills they're seeking from an Emory grad, so they can plan their Emory experience from the backwards basically. Think about the courses they want to take, think about the internships that will prepare them for those opportunities. No path is linear. None of us know what the future holds, and we want students to be able to show up for happenstance opportunities because you never know if a guest speaker is coming to campus, what their network is, going to a networking event and discovering not just what the speakers have to offer, but maybe even the knowledge that your classmates have that you didn't know about. We want students to also try on different career identities to step outside their comfort zone. Students do not necessarily need to be interested in something to become better skilled at it to then get the opportunity. They can have no skills at all and just have an interest, and that's enough to propel them forward. Conversely, they can be really good at something and not quite know if they enjoy doing it. So we can work with any students. The Pathway Center is really well prepared to support students that are really clear on what they want to do, but we're even better at supporting students that have a lot of questions about what their future might hold. And so early and often is what we want students to be doing. Help seeking and help receiving are skills to be practiced. Again, students can stress themselves out unnecessarily by focusing too much on what other students do in a way that's perceived to be better than they do. No one is born knowing how to network. No one is born knowing how to interview. These are all things that students will become better at the more that they try them. And then finally, we want students specifically to seek and receive help from Pathways, from faculty, from peers, and alumni. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our colleagues in Campus Life to moderate the Q&A, and happy to answer any questions you have for me.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was all really helpful, and there's a lot of really great questions in the Q&A. So for all of our attendees, if you have any questions, please utilize our Q&A feature so we can answer them live. So I'm just gonna kind of roll down the list and ask some of these questions. So our first question is, what opportunities are there for juniors like the ECS 101 and Sophomore Summit for first and second year students?
Yeah, so the Sophomore Summit is for second-year students, but we actually have peer leader opportunities, and so we do ask juniors and seniors to get involved as small group leaders, and I think we've already put a call out to all of those that attended the Sophomore Summit in previous years, and also those that are actively working with the Pathway Center. We also employ 90 students in the Pathway Center, and there's many students that work in Campus Life and the library and the academic departments, and so preparation for this kind of work is not just in Pathways, it's throughout the college and throughout the university. But in terms of courses, the internship courses are ways that any student, no matter what class year they are, can get involved in learning about, how to manage their own career. But we begin with ECS 101 in the first semester because we see that as foundational to helping students really get a good start when they're here at Emory. And so there's nothing exactly like that in future years, but you'll find courses in different departments that have internship requirements or that have more experiential learning components as a part of them.
Cool. We've gotten a couple of questions specifically about the San Francisco trip. Is that still open for signups? Is it too late to sign up for that?
This year, it's too late to sign up for it. Every single student who was eligible got an email about it the second day of class. And so the lesson here is to read your email. We did have over 190 students sign up to be considered for that. We can only take 25, unfortunately. But what I will tell you is that if your student is in the business school, they do their own career track program. And so this is primarily for the college and for Oxford. But we do have business majors represented there and college majors represented in some Oxford as well. Keep in mind, we're going to do 3 of these per year, right? And just because they can't go to San Francisco doesn't mean they can't learn something about the world of work and the Emory Alumni Network. And so this year, again, it's San Francisco in the fall, and we've got New York and Miami in the spring, and we'll add LA and DC and then a 3rd city next year as well.
How does my daughter register for the sophomore summit since today is the last day to register?
Yeah, I will pull up the website and put it in the chat, but they can just go straight to the opportunities page for the sophomore summit and register there. So if I put it in the chat, can everyone see it?
As long as you push it to everyone,
Yep.
it should go to everyone. Yep.
There it is. So that is the link that you all need for that.
Cool. If my student is starting on research during the school year, does the SURE program allow him to continue that during the summer without the AI match?
I'm not familiar with the mechanics of the AI match, but what I can tell you is that we have, the SURE research program is really open to anyone, whether they're doing research before or going to be doing research after. So there's very few things that will disqualify you from SURE. We like to give it to students once per college career. And so if they've already done it, we discourage them doing it the second time. But we do have the 1st year research experience program and also the SIRE, the scholarly inquiry and research experience. And all of that is on our URP website, undergraduate research programs, which you can just Google. Those are curricular programs that happen in the fall and spring semester that allow students to get credit for that research. But nothing will prevent a student from continuing research that they might have started with a research mentor, either before or after the SURE program.
All right. This question, thank you for this great info. After the ECS class in the 1st year, do advisors work with students to make sure that they are aware of and consider all of these great programs?
Yes, so everything that you are learning today, the students learn even more in depth, right? And so again, it's a 13-week course, I believe. We're just now getting to the point where they're learning about pathways. We've already had a lot of activity, of course, and so many students are already just finding these things. We did email every single student at Emory. Sophomores through seniors got an email the second day of class, and all 1st years got an email with the things that were relevant to them, right? And so what I would recommend, some of the assignments in ECS 101, for instance, require them to identify their career coach, to do some things on Handshake, to get a LinkedIn profile up and running, to reach out to alumni. So it's not just that they're learning these things and hearing about them, they're actually doing these things as well. So parents can be assured that that's being ingrained in them. The other thing is that, if you know that your student is really focused on a particular career field and they can already decide on a career community, or maybe they're, kind of waffling between a couple, which is perfectly fine. And earlier in my presentation, I noted that they can customize their alerts for those communities. And so what I'd encourage you to do is simply go to the career communities page, which I will also put here in the chat. And this will allow the students to be able to customize those alerts, and they can start receiving career community newsletters that allow them to see on a weekly basis events coming up, the different people that they're working with, and even job and internship options.
Cool. And I do want to remind everyone also that this webinar is being recorded. It will be uploaded to YouTube following the conclusion of the session, and it will be posted to our website as well as pushed through our portal as well. So you will have access to this information for as long as you'd like. Continuing on with questions. For the national scholarships and fellowships, are the students nominated by the professors? And if yes, if a student is interested, should they let a professor know?
Absolutely. I will also put that in the chat just so you can see the award finder. The award finder is helpful because you can sort it by class year, by discipline, by additional criteria like, things that focus on international students or paid summer experiences. The main thing to note is that the vast majority of those opportunities do not require a nomination. They just require a student knowing about it and applying for it. But our staff work really, really closely with students to make sure that they're aware of the endorsement process. So there are some highly competitive scholarships and fellowships like the Rhodes, the Marshall, Fulbright, and others that do require institutional endorsement. And that process is very, very clearly indicated in our literature. The other thing that I didn't mention that's important to know is that we have a Fulbright boot camp that's open to students the May of every year. And keep an eye out for that in the spring semester because it allows the students to spend the entire month of May preparing their Fulbright application. This would be especially important for rising seniors. And so just kind of park that if you're a parent of a first year for a few years from now, but that is something that has allowed us to go into the Fulbright season with a really robust cohort of applicants that have been supported institutionally and have been connected to faculty who are overseeing that research or encouraging the English teaching applications.
Cool. Kind of on that note, are there coaching for applying to the various scholarship programs, particularly the pathways for things like Marshall, Rhodes, Fulbright, and other targeted ones, just for visibility and also how to succeed?
I think what you mean in terms of coaching is how do they meet with someone to talk about that? So I'll put this in the link as well in the chat. But yeah, we have a robust team of people who meet with students every day, all day. And most of those appointments are virtual, actually, and so that students can be doing it from their dorm or from an academic building on campus. But we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of appointments per semester with the coaches in national scholarships and fellowships. So the way to kind of think about that is, to look at the staff. And so since that question was specific around the team, I will also put a link in here about the staff of national scholarships and fellowships. It's led by Dr. Megan Friddle, who is also the president of the National Association of Fellowships Advisors. And so she's really seen as an industry leader across all of higher education and leading that team.
We've gotten a couple of questions about applying to the SURE program. So question number 1, can a graduating senior apply for SURE for next summer? And question 2, in general, how would a student go about registering for the SURE program?
The SURE program and really everything except for fellowships, which are sometimes after college, are really for returning students. And so the thing to kind of keep an eye out for is, how do you get involved with these programs before they graduate? What I will do for the SURE program is put the link in the chat about that program since there are a lot of questions there. Just note that the SURE program is not open yet, but will open, I believe, next month. And so just keep an eye out for that. Students, what they can be doing now to prepare for the Summer Undergraduate Research Experience program would be to start identifying faculty mentors, because in order to participate, you have to be paired with a faculty mentor. And so right now, the dates that you're seeing are probably still for this past summer, and those will be updated once we have the new application live. But there's a lot of FAQs there. And back to the faculty piece, students who are taking courses for the first time at Emory, it's important to kind of build that personal relationship with your faculty member, right? And so if there are courses that students have been taking that they really love, that they have found to be energizing for them, and maybe they're doing quite well in those courses, those are the faculty that I would strongly consider building a research relationship with. The other important thing to note is that when students come to a place like Emory, they technically have access to all the faculty. You, of course, cannot take all of your courses outside of the undergraduate experience, but there are a faculty that are used to hearing from undergraduate students, especially in the health sciences and the medical school. I think the same is true in public health. And so, many of these faculty have really robust bios on their public websites. And as your students are clarifying their professional and personal goals, I would encourage them to do their own research on faculty that they might want to meet, ask them to coffee, go to their office hours, even if they don't happen to be taking a class with them, because our faculty are very, very personable and want to be able to help undergrad students, even if they don't teach them.
Switching gears, talking a little bit about, first year students. How do we balance encouraging a first year to take advantage of these resources without overwhelming them? What are some priorities for first years in this regard?
Yeah, I would say first years should really focus in the first semester of just getting acclimated to college. The reason we have the ECS 101 program in the first place is because we want to properly introduce all the things that I, in a very short amount of time, introduced to you. And they're going to hear about those things week after week for the first semester. If they only meet with their career coach once this semester, that is fine. If they know that they're a pre-health student and they only meet with their pre-health advisor once this semester, that is fine. But what I would encourage you to let your student know is that if they can spend 1 hour a day, 1 hour a day throughout their entire time in Emory, thinking about, planning for, experimenting with career and career identity, that will at least get them in the right mindset to be able to balance this. And as I mentioned at the top of the presentation, Emory is the only institution I've worked at in my 20 years of education, including at other places that we all know, where a lot of this is required, right? And so if you're an anxious parent wondering, is my student going to even find out about this? Hopefully much of what I've shared is reassuring, but what is the most reassuring is knowing that they cannot escape thinking about their future, as hard as that might be, and as easy as they might want to make their experience. The other thing is to really give themselves some grace, right? They don't have to know what they're going to do right now. They don't need to declare their major until the end of their sophomore year. And so major doesn't equal career. There are no jobs posted on Handshake that are asking for certain majors. There are jobs in Handshake asking for skills. And one of the things that students should be thinking about is, okay, I've taken all these courses, but what's my skill set and how do I articulate that? That is something our career coach can help the students with.
And a question based on that, are the students assigned a career coach, or is that something that they need to actively seek out?
They are not automatically assigned one, although if they sign up for one of their career communities, they will start hearing from that particular career coach. So the 8 career coaches that I had mentioned previously, you can find all of those coaches on the Career and Professional Development webpage. So I'll go back and put the staff there. And again, when you look at the staff of CPD, you will see that those staff have really clear responsibilities in terms of their portfolio, both of academic programs, but also affinity groups and also the different career communities. And so they'll learn about each of those career coaches in ECS 101. And we have a lot of these career coaches who actually teach ECS 101 as well. But there's nothing that automatically pairs them with a career coach. The same thing is true with pre-health advisors, by the way. We split the alphabet with our pre-health advising team. And so those students should look at the roster of pre-health advisors and see which of theirs is their dedicated coach. So some of what I'm discussing does require students reaching out and choosing to engage with our programs.
So we've answered a lot of questions. It's been really great. We have a couple more specific questions that I'll ask, and then we'll kind of wrap up from there. So can you elaborate on what the internship courses are for juniors?
Yeah, so the way to think about internship courses is that there's 2 categories. There are internships that students just find on Handshake, and they want to either get credit for it or get credit and get funding for it. In order to get funding, you have to register it for credit. And so we do have the internship course that any student can take at any point in time. The only caveat is that international students need to wait until they've done a full 2 semesters before they can intern. But we do have in experiential learning our intern 496, 497 course. And so this course, I'll put it in the link in the chat and the link in the chat here as well. But that is a catch-all course that allows any student from any major to take an internship course. You might discover when you go to the academic departments, which is the other way that students might intern, that those departments have their own internship courses as well. So depending on the department, what you want to do when you go to the page itself is look at the undergraduate experience part of the website to look at internship programs. And so, for instance, just as an example, not to direct everyone to environmental sciences, But that link that I just put in the chat is an example of a departmental internship. And there's roughly about 20 departments in Emory College that have an internship associated with their department. And so the question from the family member about what would a junior do for their internship, they could either do an internship with their department if they have a mechanism for doing that, which is usually a 3 or 4 credit course typically, or they can do an internship, especially over the summer, with pathways that allows them to qualify for funding. They get credit for it, but it's really just 0 credit so that we don't charge them any tuition over the summer. So there's no cost to doing that particular version of the internship with us over the summer.
What kind of help or opportunities are there for pre-med gap year after graduation? A pre-med gap year.
Yeah, there's a lot of help for pre-med gap year. I would say that a lot of that falls under the discussions you're going to have with your advisor. A lot of students will do medical scribing, right, after their undergrad to get one foot in the clinical world and to do a little bit more research and learn the lingo of healthcare. We have other students that will work in the pharmaceutical area or health sciences area. My advice is to stay close to the profession, right? To work in a hospital, to think about certifications you might get along the way. But really, we want that prescriptive guidance to be done in partnership with our pre-health advisors. And so we have something in the second year for all students called the mandatory checkup, which is as much of a pun as it does sound like. And that is really for our second year students who know that they're going to be thinking about health professions after college, to really just get a real, kind of quick and dirty, assessment of what they need to do in their second year at Emory to make sure that they're taking all the right courses, that they're preparing when it comes to getting some clinical shadowing and observerships under their belt. But all of that can then, of course, lead to having that gap year where they spend time doing some of those things. And so generally, the advice is to think about skill development and continuing to do what you need to do. Occasionally, we will have students that need to knock out a couple more prerequisites, but my strong recommendation to you is to show that you can complete your degree in 4 years, that you can finish all the major requirements and the course requirements that you need for getting into health professions school. And remember that you don't have to be a science major to go to medical school. You just have to take those prerequisites in order to be qualified. So when it comes to the health professions tracks, one of the things I might do is just make sure students and families know all the different tracks that are out there. And so what I'll do in the chat is put the link to those health tracks. This includes, again, dentistry, medicine, nursing, pharmacy, physical therapy. And when you click on that link and look at the overview of what needs to be done, whatever is left to do, right, after a student graduates is really what you want to complete in that gap year.
Incredible. There's one more question I'll ask. We had a question specifically about what opportunities there are for creative writing students, but how might a student go about looking for opportunities that are specific to them?
Yeah, so specifically within creative writing, I would think of that within the creative career community, right? And so if you go to the Pathways website, you go to the creative career community, what you will eventually see on that creative career community is you will be able to drill down by job market insights. So I'm just going to put in the chat here that specific community for that person that asked the question. You'll be able to see when you look at the job market insights, what are the industries of the, so arts, audio, visual, technology, and communication, or is it more on the marketing, sales, and service side? Then you can choose an occupation. And so it might be around creative writing, right? So writers and authors. And when I look at that data, I can see that, for instance, that the employment trends show that over the course of the next decade, there will be a 15.66% growth in writers and authors, but between what we have now and what's coming. So in the year 2024, we have 158,000 jobs. And by the year we get to 2033, 2034, there'll be 178,000 jobs projected from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the Department of Labor. We will also show you the top employers of students that want to be a writer, the top ways to think about their education. Only 40% of writers and authors have only a bachelor's degree. 35% have some college. And there really is not a need for a master's degree to be a writer at this stage in their career. When they get down to job titles, the nice thing is that all of this is connected. And so I'm looking at a different screen, but what you'd want to do is walk your student through that career community tab. When you get to job market insights and you click in that very last page on the left, which is job title, you will then see featured jobs that fall in the creative career community. And those all link back to Handshake, and those are actual jobs and internships posted within the creative community that have been posted by employers that specifically want to recruit an Emory student. So spending time on the career communities page is really helpful for any industry that your student might be interested in.
Branden, thank you so much for meeting with us today and sharing all of this wonderful information about pathways. If we did not get to your question or you have more questions or information, he just had his email and the Pathways website on the screen. That will be available on the recording as well. Or you can always go and email my email, family@emory.edu, and I'm happy to forward on information. But thank you again. We will wrap up with this last slide. So coming up next, lost my script. There we go. Okay, so thank you to all who have attended our session today. We hope you learned something and will engage with the Pathways Center more soon. Coming up next in our webinar series, our October 4th session, our Director of Open Expression Programs will be here to discuss Emory's open expression policy and the university's practice around free speech on campus. Registration will be available soon on our website and on our parent and family portal. Our following week's webinar following sessions are still being confirmed, but the next one will be occurring on October 18th, which is 2 weeks after October 4th. Again, all this information will be available at family.emory.edu. And if you have any questions, my email is family@emory.edu. Thank you again, and enjoy your weekend.
See ya.